Hello, everybody, and welcome once again into the Take the North podcast, a Chicago Bears podcast. Along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic, I am Mark Grote of 670 The Score. Dan, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Strange week here in Chicago. They're off. Cubs taking center stage. Just trying to find your place in the infrastructure, in the landscape, in the Chicago sports, whatever we call it nowadays.
It couldn't be more perfect, quite frankly. It's like the Chicago baseball gods or the Chicago sports gods have been spot on. Like, what better time for the Bears to have their bye? And moreover, Ben Johnson saying, yeah, we're going to practice Tuesday, but screw Wednesday. Everybody get the hell out of here. So it's kind of worked out perfectly. The Cubs have just advanced on to the National League Division Series to play the top team in their division. That would be the Milwaukee Brewers, a best of 5 series. And one of the coolest things that goes on in sports, and we're, of course, keeping it Chicago sports, is players from other sports in the city can be seen cross-supporting, going to the games. And guess what? Ben Johnson said, yeah, recess, everybody. We ain't practicing Wednesday. Go have some fun. Go to the Cubs game. So Ben Johnson was at the Cubs game. Caleb Williams was at the Cubs game. Tremaine Edmonds was at the Cubs game. Dan Wiederer and his son were at the Cubs game.
So was Ben at the game on Wednesday? Game
he
two?
He went
he
was spotted Thursday. Like, here's how it went down.
Yeah.
This is kind of funny, actually. He, one of our producers, the producer of the show that I host, the midday show, Rahimi Harrison Grote, Robbie Triano, was at Wrigley Field yesterday and hanging out in Gallagher Way, where, as you know, the Score was broadcasting. Yours truly,
Absolutely,
getting to do a broadcast. That's where we saw Dan. And Ben Johnson, sort of just unassumingly, with his wife and children. And Dan, it was hilarious. Robbie said that he just looked like everybody else there.
Yeah.
Nobody was going up to him. It was like like there probably will come a day down the road where he's going to get spotted, but he's just too normal looking, I think, Dan, to be spotted. Like, people were not jumping around Ben Johnson.
I kind of love it. Ball cap on, sunglasses on, just be able to blend in and take in his favorite baseball team. You mentioned that I did go to the game on Wednesday with my 12-year-old son. Huge baseball guy, as listeners to the podcast know, and I have been telling him for a while now, like, playoff baseball is different. You can't wait until you get in this atmosphere. It's a whole different thing. And then we go to the game on Wednesday, which is the absolute dud of the series, where the atmosphere, I'm sure you would agree, Grote, of the 3 games, it was by far the worst. And I've gone to 7 Cubs playoff games in my life, and it's by a country mile. It's 7th on the list in terms of the juice in the building. A lot of it was obviously because the Cubs got no momentum going. They were down 1-0 right from the top of the first. But man, it was flat on Wednesday, and you contrast that with the 2 wins on Tuesday and Thursday, and you're like, man, we got a little bit of a bad hand there.
They didn't score a run in the game that you attended, Dan. That is why the crowd was dead. You were part of that. The Padres beat the Cubs that day 3-0. That's the Shota Imanaga allowing the home run to Manny Machado, and there is outrage in the town. How could you leave him in there to face the mighty Manny Machado? But other than that, those Padres, man, did not hurt us. I got to exercise my demons fully.
Yeah,
I think
1984,
I've worked through
right?
it. Yeah, I've worked through it pretty well through the years. Like, it's pretty much like 2016 knocked a lot of it out, but that's a direct hit right there. That's done.
Sure.
You're cooked. Goodbye, San Diego. We got through you to get to the NLDS.
Really a fun baseball series. It's a little bit more intense with the 3-game approach to things. You see some big moments that the Cubs respond to. I can't say enough about Dansby Swanson's glove and just how much of a difference that made in the series. Grote, watching that throughout the 3 days, it was like, man, this is pretty cool stuff to be able to win a game with your defense in the way that the Cubs did. A little worried on Thursday in game 3. Obviously, they're piling up the hits, but not many runs. I think it was 2 runs on 10 hits at one point before the Michael Busch home run kind of gave them that needed cushion that they needed going into the latter stages. But you get a little nervous in the postseason when you're squandering opportunities, when the replay reviews are going against you, when the opportunities are sliding right past. And I'm sure you felt some of that similar tension there, really across all 3 games, but certainly on Thursday.
I did too. And this is something that I'm not necessarily proud of about myself. Like, I don't feel the emotion of games like I once did. I don't feel nervous. I'm not necessarily, of course, I'm rooting. Of course, I want the Cubs to win, but I don't feel genuinely like a fan. I don't have that just from being in the business for so long. It's something that naturally happens. But I will say that the heart was thumping in that ninth inning, and I was rooting for myriad reasons. That, like, number one, it's just cool when you in any of our teams. We always talk about what it's like when the Bears win here, but any of our
Yeah.
teams when they're winning, it's just so cool. Like the spirit, everybody's in on it. It leads the newscast. You see people wearing their Cubs gear. So I was when Brad Keller, the Cubs closer, was struggling mightily, and he's hitting guys, and he gives up the home run to Jackson Merrill. I'm like, okay. And I went into fan kind of panic mode. And like I said, for the sake of what we do for a living, like it's fun broadcasting our show from Wrigley Field. It's fun previewing like Cubs playoffs. It's fun having big time guests on. So I didn't want that to end. So when Andrew Kittredge comes into the game and closes it out, I mean, I will say I enjoyed watching that team and the champagne and all the interviews and all the silliness that goes on. So I was feeling it, but right to work, man. The series starts on Saturday.
Yeah, it starts early Saturday as well. I've got a little dilemma that I'll give to you right now, and you can tell me what to do. We are going down to West Lafayette for Illini versus Boilermakers, which is an 11 o'clock Central kickoff, which felt really safe to be able to go watch an Illinois football game and be done with it and get ready to lock in for Cubs playoff baseball in the NLDS. And then Major League Baseball goes ahead and schedules them for a 1 o'clock Central first pitch. And so now we've got this situation. Like, do we leave at halftime? Do we see where the game flow is? Do you keep a phone out, streaming the game from the Ross-Ade Stadium bleachers? What do you do, Grote, if you're me?
I'll tell you.
Trying to figure this out.
I'll tell you exactly what to do. And you may not like the answer that I'm about to give you, but here's what you need to do. I'm sorry, Dan. You need to go. Are you going with some buddies from college?
I'm going with my son and my brother. That's what we're doing. We got a little family boys road trip here.
This makes it a little bit more complicated. I didn't realize your son was going, because so he would be very upset if you actually didn't. Because my suggestion was going to be go to a bar and watch the Illini and watch the Cubs. That could be just as fun of an experience with like being on campus like the old days. But since it's a family thing, that changes a little bit. I mean, how do you sell that to your child, right?
Well, he's a huge Cubs guy, so he might be willing to leave at half. We're going to have to play this by ear, I think, a little bit. But man, I was just stunned. And the Cubs, I think, would have played at 8 o'clock at night had the Red Sox beaten the Yankees in that series in the American League. So this whole thing got a little bit sideways. I'm sure our audience is thrilled to hear about my weekend plans, but it's a conundrum. It's a legitimate conundrum for people trying to figure out their Saturday.
Well, yeah, if you want to throw Dan a solution in the comments, then we would appreciate it. And here's a good way to get us into Bears too, because it reminds me of, I do a Cubs game with my brothers and the brothers of a family that we grew up in the western suburbs of Chicago. Literally been doing this since we were 12, taking the train from the suburbs down to the city. So now we're all old, but we all still go. Everybody's still alive. Everybody's still healthy. All of that stuff. There was one year, and for some reason we were like, we still are. We love going to Yaxie's, which is on Clark, right near the ballpark, obviously, Clark and Waveland. So we go to Yaxie's, we hang out there. Everybody does what they're going to do. Pizza, people are drinking, having a good time. Then we go to the game. There was a Bears game on the same day, same time as a Cubs game. And we pulled it. Like the Cubs kind of sucked. The Bears, I don't remember what year it was, but the Bears were decent. We just stayed at Yaxie's, watched the Bears game, watched the Cubs game, and it was an absolute delight.
So there it is. Well, we'll kind of play it by ear, and we'll see which direction it goes. And I mean, the advantage of this is we have no Bears game over the weekend, but then the baseball's off on Sunday, and then you got to come back to Milwaukee on Monday. What a week! What a time! And I think, Grote, when we get back into that locker room at Haugh Hall next week, we're going to be able to ask some of these guys about their experience at Wrigley. Cole Kmet, lifelong Cubs fan. As you mentioned, Caleb, Ben. These guys hopefully will have some insight into kind of what they experience with playoff baseball, and if it maybe lit their fire a little bit to make a run of their own at trying to get into the postseason.
Yeah, well, here the Bears are. I mean, that light is on right now. I mean, the Bears are 2-2, and we're looking at the schedule. Obviously, this is a big game coming up. It is one that was circled on the schedule. I believe Dan and I both picked the Bears to win this next game when we did our predictions at the beginning of the season, just because kind of like you can't not win this game. The Bears at Washington, Monday, October 13th. It's almost like last week's game where you couldn't lose it because of the momentum you had from the previous week against Dallas. At least it needed to look good. So it didn't look good, but they won the game. So I suppose I'll take the trade-off there. But it does feel like, again, Dan, heading into this game, what went down last year, a game that the Bears should have won, a narrative that should have been about Caleb Williams and taking the offense down the field like he did in the previous game against the Raiders. And then it turned into the Tyreek Stevenson complete, mental breakdown game. So it feels like they got to win this game, or at least make it like really good in the process. So at least a decent loss.
And it should be a fun week. It's another one of these, under the lights games at Northwest Stadium out there in Maryland. And the Bears are going to have to find a way to find some magic out there and figure out if they can get themselves moving in the right direction. I think you mentioned it, like the win in Vegas was a little ugly, maybe a lot ugly, depending on your lens. And yet 2 weeks of building on the momentum of a win feels different. And then it's on top of the win over the Cowboys from the previous week. And so I think that the energy should be good as the Bears return to work next week. They're going to be back in a little bit of an untraditional schedule again because of the Monday night game. They did this to open the season in week 1. And so they're going to have to navigate that with a little bit of familiarity, and hopefully put together a winning plan here. And Grote, it does lead you to that regular realization that we have in the NFL all the time, that this is such a week-to-week league, and that when you sort of zoom out, you realize that you don't really know anything about what the future holds. 2 weeks ago, we're sitting here looking at an 0-2 team that's buried under the rubble of some terrible performances against the Vikings and the Lions. And now at 2-2, you see this ray of hope with an upcoming schedule that seems very gettable. And I'm going to read you, Grote, the list of quarterbacks that the Bears are scheduled to face between now and Black Friday when they go to Philadelphia to face the Eagles. And you tell me where this leaves your mindset as you're sort of setting expectations for the next 6 weeks. In week 6, Washington, we know that's probably going to be Jaden Daniels, potentially Marcus Mariota, if not. Week 6, Spencer Rattler at Soldier Field. Got to feel great about that. Week 8, behind that, if Lamar Jackson is unable to come back from his injury, you're looking at Cooper Rush in Baltimore. That feels a lot better than Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Week 9, Joe Burrow, he's out. It's going to be Jake Browning or maybe even a reunion with Brett Rippon. Go beyond that, Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy. Week 11, the rematch reunion with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. All of a sudden, you look at that schedule, which looked so daunting. Yeah. At the end of August, and you go, man, this is a gettable spot for the Bears to really build and create some relevance for themselves.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I actually have my little chart out that where I put my predictions that we did at the beginning of the season or before the season started. And in this gauntlet of games here, which looked like a gauntlet, as you just pointed out very well, my goodness, did I really? I don't know. Maybe it's like maybe I'm going back and forth between the score and the podcast, but for some reason I have L at Washington. But when we did the podcast, I picked the Bears to beat Washington.
We picked them as the signature win. We both did it, and I know Studs has kept that in the files, in the archives, to get us rolling. Yeah, able to pull this off.
Right, and I had the Bears beating the Saints anyway. But as you said, Rattler going to be at Soldier Field. That the Ravens, I had them losing. I did have them up. I thought they would win one of those 2 games. The Ravens at, because that back-to-back at the Ravens, at the Bengals. I was like, they have to figure out a way, but it does become much more plausible now when you look at it. And part of why I'm delaying in my head right now, Dan, is I'm thinking, man, dude, I mean, 4-2 out of this, 5-3, something like that. Like it could be better. I mean, we talked about the playoff light is there even at 2-2 because obviously you can go forward with this, but man, that does look good.
Yeah, and I mean, if you remember in 2018, there was like a series of quarterbacks that the Bears were able to avoid. I think they avoided Matthew Stafford at one point, and like there was just when you start to get in a groove, the breaks seem to come in waves for you, and we'll see what this looks like. Again, we're sitting here on October 3rd talking about all this stuff, and who knows what's going to await the Bears with their own injury situation, which you and I both know there's a long list of guys we've got to keep close tabs on as we come out of the bye to see where they're at. But you just start to feel like, okay, if they really want to be relevant, and I've been of the contention from the spring that this season was all about playing as much meaningful as possible in 2025 so that when you walk into 2026, you're prepared to make your run, right? Like that's your year to go chase championships, division championships,
Yes.
and whatever else
Right.
is beyond that. This year is about creating relevance again, getting the experience in the big moments in the big games. Bears certainly have that opportunity here awaiting them.
Yeah, and it's so funny you bring that up. Like, you want to know at the end of the season that it looks right, even if you are what I predicted Bears to be at the beginning of the season, 8-9. I got into a debate with Layla Rahimi. She was like, I'll take 8," and maybe we asked you about this. I don't even remember. She said, "I'll take 8 wins like that, like the grindy grit," and I'm like, absolutely not, because you want it to be something sustainable that actually can win you post game.
Right,
Like,
right,
we've
right.
seen too many seasons, Dan, where the regular season looks great, and then it's just not a sustainable way of winning. Way too many one-off seasons with the Chicago Bears just in the last 30 years of
Yeah.
their franchise, where these nice seasons will pop up, but then they go away because I'm not saying that they would win like they did last week always against the
No,
Raiders,
please
but
don't.
kinda, there was a lot of wins like that in the Bears' history where you're like,
Yeah.
that's probably not going to take once the postseason hits.
Yeah, and it's certainly not something that you can sustain over the course of 4 or 5 years, which is the ultimate goal, is to create that annual relevance that's eluded the Bears for as long as since the '85 Super Bowl is over, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting here now with an opportunity to create the belief in your building, and you created some belief in Vegas. You created some understanding amongst everybody at how thin the margin is and how beautiful it is when you can find a way to make those few plays that swing the game in the right direction. And now you just got to do that every
Yeah.
damn week in a league that's really hard, with a lot of competition and a lot of cutthroat competitive environments that you've got to survive in.
Yeah, and let's talk about get into it a little bit, the nitty-gritty here with the Bears and injuries and who might be coming back. It sure feels good that Kyler Gordon could be on target to return for the Bears from his hamstring injury,
Yeah.
possibly TJ Edwards as well. I don't have as good of a read, maybe you do, Dan, on Colston Loveland and the hip injury, but I do know that Ben Johnson said has not been overly alarmed about it, and just for whatever it's worth, seeing Colston Loveland in the locker room after the game in which he was hurt, that was the Dallas game, see him in the locker room joking around with Cole Kmet and literally talking about hip injuries, and Cole Kmet saying something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, mine was right here, mine was right." So it was almost like, yeah, it was worth missing a game. I mean, it was bad enough to miss a game, but I don't think it's going to be anything chronic for the year.
Yeah, and so that'll be interesting. You talk about Grady Jarrett, hopefully being able to
Yeah.
get on the right end of his knee issue. This is a guy that the Bears signed in big part because durability has been a calling card for him during his entire time in the NFL, save the one season where he tore his ACL. And so you hope he's able to be durable for the remainder of the season. You're talking about hoping that Darnell Wright is back in your plans on the offensive line, because those plans on the offensive line right now are shaken up. And the Bears obviously very honest and to the point this week, and saying that they're going to have to reassess things as they get back to work next week to face the Commanders, to try to figure out who fits where and what it means going forward. And so a lot to keep an eye on. We're not going to get an injury report officially until Thursday afternoon because of the Monday night game. And so you're going to have to use your eyes more than your ears and see what you can see out there in Lake Forest. But certainly a lot of health situations worth keeping track of.
I mean, just for whatever it's worth, Jonah Jackson was on that injury report too, and not practicing on Tuesday from eyewitness accounts. So that's interesting. I do wonder how far, Dan, I know we've touched on this a little bit, how far, or are there more surprises coming for the Bears offensive line? Like, I think it looks like Theo Benedict is going to be the guy at left tackle over Braxton Jones heading into that Washington game, maybe. It could be, depending on Darnell Wright, that would, to me, of course, you slide Ozzie Trapillo right back in there. But could there be more? And when I say that, could Darnell Wright get a taste at left tackle if they feel like they need to go to that realm?
Listen, it's a popular question. It's an understandable popular question. And it's something that came up during the offseason where the Bears hinted that, look, like Darnell Wright was a top 10 pick in part because we saw position versatility in addition to all the other things that we saw in his skill set, and that he had played left and right in college. And it was something that Ryan Poles saw him having the capability of doing. The Bears moved away from that, though, throughout the entire offseason program, through OTAs, through minicamp, through training camp. Darnell Wright was never seen on the left side of the line taking reps over there, which leads you to believe that this coaching staff decided early he's not a fit over there. So it would be wild to me if at this point they said, hey, we need you to move over to the left side, given that he had almost no training and practice time there throughout the duration of May, June, July, August, September.
Yeah, no doubt. And that was weird because I remember, we the collective media, talking to the Bears executives about things like this, and I remember asking the question, "Is this a real thing?" And they said yes, but then we never did see a hint of Darnell Wright at left tackle. But I'm throwing it out there because what's already happened to me is very surprising to us. And I get it. Darnell Wright caused it, but to see Theo Bennett out there, to all of a sudden, oh, there's Ozzie Trapillo, a guy who I thought might have been getting like the red shirt year with the Bears. So there are aggressive things happening, and I just wonder what extent they will go to.
It's all fluid. And I mean, Ben had been very, very direct in talking about how everything is a constant evaluation and guys have to earn their roles every single week. And that's one we're going to be keeping our eyes on because the Bears need stability up front. It's funny, Caleb Williams only took the 1 sack in Vegas. He was pressured a lot, and you give him a lot of credit within that game of finding his way out of trouble the way he did in certain situations and having a ball knocked out of his hands and quickly pop. Oh, excuse me. Hiccups creeping in there. Grote. Oh God. Bears have got to figure that out, because you don't want your quarterback to feel as unsettled as he did in Vegas, despite only taking 1 sack. You want a little bit more comfort back there in the pocket. Creating that with stability and reliability in your offensive line is step number 1.
Yeah. A couple more things here before I'm staring down our best bet segment, which is coming up. I think you guys are going to enjoy that here. I guess the one other area, offensive line, tenuous, interesting situation, and then the never-ending question, and I just don't know if the question is going to get answered this year, and that's the run game. Like the idea of go out and get somebody, bring guys in and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you're going to solve that problem this year. I guess Ben Johnson has to continue to be creative. Is going to have to continue to be a little bit desperate with that running game, unless there's something, again, that we don't know about that they're rubbing their hands together and thinking about.
We talked earlier in the week. We talked a little bit last week about the timing of this bye, allowing for a reset for the offense, for the coaches to go in and acknowledge who you are and who you aren't and try to reconfigure things to be more successful. The running game is certainly a big part of that. I'll be interested to see what Ben comes up with coming out of the bye, what his coaching staff has agreed on in terms of the identity of running game, who deserves the touches in the running game, how they establish more of a push up front. It's a big deal. I mean, you're a bottom 10 rushing offense. You're a dead last rushing defense. You're not making any sort of run toward a wild card berth in that situation. And so you've got to find a way to stimulate both of those things. And really, when you're talking about running games, it usually starts up front on both sides of the ball, and you better find a way to have answers there. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season of having these conversations weekly.
It is time now on Take the North for our Best Bet segment. This Best Bet segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And now we think we bring in our master of ceremonies. He is the executive producer. He is married. He is Adam Stadzinski. What up, studs?
Hey, what's going on, guys? So a couple fun ones this week. Obviously, the Bears don't play, so there's not really a Bears-related bet we can do. But a couple of the Bears' division rivals are in action. First up, we'll go to the Vikings in Cleveland against the Browns. I picked this one out because the over-under for this game is pretty low for an NFL game. Over-under 35.5. Do you guys think the Vikings and Browns will combine for 35.5 points or not?
We've got Carson Wentz versus Dylan Gabriel in London. Hey, Jolly Brits, good morning. Good morning. This is your NFL game for this weekend. Low total. I'm going to take the over there just because it feels like you can get there by accident. 35.5 points in an NFL game feels like it should be doable no matter where the game's played, no matter who the quarterbacks are. But should be interesting to monitor that one, given how low that total is, how good those defenses can be against quarterbacks who can be susceptible to good defenses. I'll still take the over just on the probability that somebody's going to find a way to the end zone, even if it's a defensive player.
Yeah, and Minnesota put up a big number with Carson Wentz recently, right? In the first game that Carson Wentz played, I want to say, right?
They did.
So yeah. I am all about the over in this one. I mean, especially if I'm actually betting on it, I don't want to sit there and sweat that out, man. It's still the NFL, so I am going to go over as well. I am with Weedsy.
This is the Vikings going from Ireland to London, back-to-back European games there, and so it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that whole thing.
And I should mention the over on that one is -115. The under is -105. So pretty similar odds. But I think I would. You know what? Betting unders is so sweaty. I would go with the over as well.
It is, and I don't even gamble that much, but that is sweaty. Yeah.
Yeah. So especially a 35.5 under. Anyway. Moving on to our final bet that I picked out this week. This one is for the other division rival that's in action. The Lions are in Cincinnati taking on the Bengals. As you mentioned earlier, Dan, the Bengals have their backup quarterback playing. So obviously the Lions are favored. They are favored by 10.5 points. The Lions are -10, which is really big for an NFL game. So can the Lions cover -10.5 against the Bengals? Those odds are -104 on FanDuel Sportsbook.
Oh man, I so want to put $40 on this, on the money line right there. I really do. Man, well, Dan, we saw the Lions. We know what they're capable of doing. And I don't know, is the Bengals defense any good? I haven't really been.
They're terrible.
Doing
terrible.
a deep dive on the Bengals defense right now. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that they will cover. That they will win by 10 or more. I'm afraid.
I'm taking the points with the Bengals, the 10 and the hook, and I'm gonna ride with the Bengal Tigers, believing that this is the classic NFL trap game with a team that looks really, really good against a team that looks really, really bad in a game that somehow comes down to the final 5 minutes, and it's like a 6 or an 8 point win for the Lions, but not double digits. So I'm gonna go with Zach Taylor's crew and the Bengals to cover. As you guys know, good coaches win, great coaches cover.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the Lions are going to cover, guys. Just for reference, in the last 3 games, the Bengals have given up 27, 48, and 28. And that's those 48 points was against Minnesota with Carson Wentz starting. So I'm going with the Lions to cover.
With you, man. The Best Bet segment was brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Adam, thank you so much. And that is going to do it for today's edition of Take the North. For Dan Wiederer of The Athletic, for Adam Stadzinski, executive producer of Take the North, and a producer at The Score as well. I am Mark Grote saying thank you for watching and listening to the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.